Okay, welcome to our third and final installment of the couple of Maimorim that we're bridging on Hanukkah, right? Hanukkah. Um, let's see, any housekeeping here? I guess if you don't know, do take yourself off mute when you have something to say, when you want to comment, and certainly, guys, when you have a question, please don't let it pass. Okay, we are starting. I've sent the mimer out. First of all, let me know. Are any of you on the call looking at the mimer that was sent out? Otherwise, I don't have to keep telling you where we're holding.
I have the book.
You have the book.
Yeah.
Is it set up the same?
It's I think the same one you're using, the big red one.
Oh, the big red one. Okay, fine.
Yeah, Torah. Yeah.
Torah. Okay, so fine. So you are. So great. Okay, so we're on page 66. And we're going to start counting down from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 lines down, I think. The line begins with neshama. The word neshama. You see it?
Which column?
Right-hand column, 66.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 lines down begins neshama. Neshama, and then there's an aleph.
Got it.
One soul. Okay, we'll go over on the end of the line, vehine. Vehine. Okay, now just hold your finger there, and let me just give a little review here. I'm not sure who has been here the whole time, who's not been here at all. We've been exploring the topic of that the Frierdiker Rebbe first initiated this idea. I thought it was the Rebbe Menachem Mendel, but it was the Frierdiker Rebbe who first said, at least that got out publicly, that one has to listen to the story that the Hanukkah lights are telling. And the Rebbe would shorten that and say, listen to the lights. And all of you hopefully know, if you don't, I'll tell you the halacha is that when you light the Hanukkah lights, you have to pay 100% attention to them. There are various shittas in halacha, but generally about a half an hour. 100% attention. And the chiyuv of the obligation is on both men and women to stay tuned to, meaning look at and listen to, and that's what we're exploring. What stories do they have to tell? Listen to the lights. A woman, in fact, is not allowed to do any work in the house during that time. That's a good thing to know because, you know, by the Hanukkah lights, it's a good time when the lights are lit. So, you know, let me putter around a little bit. But no, you're not supposed to be puttering around. You're supposed to be looking at the lights and listening to the lights. So what do the lights tell us? So in sum, and this is a very big overview of what we've already learned, there are two stories that we've already learned. One, Ner Hanukkah, right? So Ner Hanukkah, the Ner refers to the lantern. And the lantern gets its name by the type of fuel that's in it. So it's a oil lantern or a wax lantern, as a candle, or a kerosene lantern, etc. In our case, the most refined way, the most hidden way to do Hanukkah is with an oil lantern. So you have oil lantern, but so far you really have nothing, because as we explained at length in our first session, the Alter Rebbe explained, we just brought it to the table. The interesting property about the oil we use olive oil generally, it doesn't light. You can't hold a match to olive oil and have it light the way you can with kerosene or gasoline, right? And similarly, the lantern is nothing without this thing in the middle called the wick. The wick is the magic, right? The wick takes the oil and allows it to illuminate, and the lantern now preserves that flame so that the oil and wick have something to hold on to, and the flame and the wick burns very, very slowly as a result of the oil. Another point we made, these are just plain physical facts so far, that if you, again, just as if you light the oil, it won't burn by itself. If you light the wick by itself, it'll just fizzle up, okay? So what do we have from here? This construct of nair, lantern, and pasila, which is wick, pasila, and the shemen, which is the oil, are the Rosh Tevis of nun for nair, pei or fei for pasila, which is fei, we'll use the fei, and the shin, which is nefesh. Nun, nair, and then pasila or fasila, fei and shin, shemen, oil, nefesh. So the first thing that we learned from the Alter Rebbe is when we're watching this oil, we're really watching the way our soul behaves. Our soul is an or, is a light, it's an energy, it's an or lelakai, or elakim, it's a light of God. However, for that light to shine, it needs to cling to something. It needs a wick, and the wick is the body. And this union of body and soul is preserved in something which is called a mitzvah. Ner mitzvah. The lantern, this is from Shlomo HaMelech. Ner mitzvah, the Torah or. A lantern is the mitzvah, that's the container, that's the container in which you're going to put the oil. Ner mitzvah. Torah is the light. Torah is the light. And that light flames up when the neshama is united with the body. And the body is, in this particular way of looking at things, the wick. That which makes the light last for a while, and that which makes it flame up. Hashem's purpose is He puts us in a body for a while, right? And He includes in our body the union of the body with the nefesh elokis, with the body soul. That's the pei, that's the wick. And included in there is the or haganuz, the infinite light, the light which is hidden, the or ein sof, the infinite light, or the organuz, the hidden light. And those three things interoperate when they are attached to a mitzvah. Ner mitzvah. The lantern now becomes a flame of fire, which is a mitzvah. So we look at the candles and we think about that. That our soul is a flame with a godly light. And when does that flame have some lastingness and some meaning? Really, and only when it's attached to a body, which is the wick, and then the lantern, which holds it. And when does the body soul experience become really what Hashem wants in mind? When the body soul is involved in mitzvahs. Ner mitzvah, the lantern is a mitzvah. So that's essentially what we learned in lesson 1.
I'm a little confused because my notes from last time say that the vessel, the lantern, the nair, was the body.
The nair is, well, it depends where you're holding in this mimer. At some point he does say that. At another point he says that because he's after all, it's all based on the pasuk ner mitzvah b'Torah or, and the pasuk says ner mitzvah. So the lantern is the mitzvah, the body is the pasila, and the oil is the light of Hashem. So there are points on page 66 itself. We're going to skip a lot. He goes back and forth with various ways of looking at this, but though the notes have maybe picked that up incorrectly, the major point is that from the word nefesh, lantern is the physical ner mitzvah. That's what the Torah says, right? Ner mitzvah. The lantern is a mitzvah, and the body think about it this way, and we all have had this experience. If we exist as Jews without being attached to the mitzvahs, without our body and our soul being attached to the mitzvahs, we can burn up real quick in all other kinds of ideologies and all other pursuits of vanities and all other pursuits even of spiritualities. We can burn up real quick unless we have the light of Hashem, which is the Torah or, the light of Hashem, attached to us, and they use that attachment to motivate our body so that our body is walking in the ways of Hashem. Okay? So That's number one. And you're right. What was that? Moshe said that. You know, there are various ways of looking at this, but that's the predominant way that we came out of the first lesson. Second lesson, we now focus totally on the light. This was the notion, and so looking at now imagine we're going to be doing this in two nights, 3 nights. When is it? When do we light the light? Wednesday night, the first night.
Thursday night, I believe.
Thursday night. Thank you very much. It's good to know that, right? So that we're not so eager to light the lights because we've been learning so much about them. We'll light them when we're supposed to be, and for those who came in late, the way to do the mitzvah properly is to sit by them at least for 30 minutes and really listen to them. Listen to the story we just told, and listen to this next story, which the next story is looking at the flame itself. Not so much the container, but the flame. And this is a simple story, because any flame has the property that the color of the flame closest to the bottom of the wick is blue or dark, and it's the hottest. And the flame at the top of the wick is light, it's white, and it's not as hot. The heat is in the darkness. And this brings to the table a very powerful and not so obvious perspective that really I think Chassidus is I can't say this because I'm not expert in all parts of Torah at all, let me say this, but it's something that Chassidus, you'll hear about this, what I'm about to say, a lot, and you won't hear about it so much in other, in the Sifrei Musar and other approaches accepting Chassidus. That, and here's the expression, and then we'll explore it a little bit before we dive into tonight's learning. The expression is, there's an advantage of light which comes from darkness. There's an advantage of the flame which comes from the dark spot over the light spot. The Alter Rebbe uses here a mashal that he uses in many different places of a difference between a window and a mirror. Right? So the window is luminous, it lets the sun through. The mirror reflects. And when you hold the mirror in a certain way, I mean, I used this metaphor the last time we were talking. I'm sitting in this room, some of which you can see. The room is illuminated, and it's very comfortably illuminated, so I can see the page nicely. If I took a mirror here and held it a certain way, and so that the light in this room bounced off the mirror into my eyes, there would be an intensity. You can do this with the sun. You can do this with a magnifying glass. You can take the white light of the sun and concentrate it, and then even reflect it, and it becomes much more intense when it gets narrow and reflected. And he goes into this mashal. He says, how is a mirror made? A mirror is made by painting a dark, thin silver film in paint over the back, and it's that darkness which allows the mirror to reflect with that intensity. He also uses another piece about the mirror, which the mirror allows you to see something behind you, or say like a periscope, allows you to see what you couldn't see with your naked eye. Or if you have a reflective mirror, it'll show you if someone's behind you, it will reflect in your. So this allows you to have a sense of vision, which is number one, more intense, and number two, totally unique from what you could have with plain visible white light. And there's one other mashal which I brought to the table, which is used in this. This is a mashal that it became famous when Matis Yohu made a song about it. And the mashal is as follows. It's a mashal from Chazal that says, let me get it straight. The wood of the handle of the axe comes from the forest in order to destroy the forest. From the forest itself, here's how it goes. From the forest itself comes the handle of the axe to cut down the forest. So the forest is this thick experience, and the trees are all thick, the sun can hardly get through, and the damp, beautiful, damp darkness of the floor of the forest. There's a darkness. When you go into the forest, you can get out of the sun by walking into a forest, right? It's a dark place, right? And from that dark place, from that very dark place, comes the handle of the axe, which is enabled to chop down the forest, to bring a big level of light that was never there before in the forest. This is a metaphor for, generally it is used to understand the advantage that comes from owning up, living what's the word I'm looking for? From coming through the darkness, the dark places of our life. Coming through, rather than just taking the dark places as, why is this happening to me? Use them and understand them as opportunities for coming through them in ways that reveal much more light than had you not had the test in the first place. I mean, I can relate to this in my life, and I'm hoping, and maybe if someone wants to, if we would bring to the table an experience of this. It's not so remote, right? Well, first of all, having pain in life is not remote at all. Most of us have some difficulties in order that we need to either, God forbid, succumb to or overcome. And I'm encouraging us right now to think, at least, if anyone wants to say one, that would be fine also, a situation in your life where you had a darkness, and it's only by coming through that darkness, number one, that you are able to come to a level of equanimity, but even to a state of better or more deeper understanding of life and a deeper sense of life than had you not had the darkness in the first place. I mean, I'm not going to push, but if anyone wants to bring one to the table, we'll certainly be happy with that.
It may be a little bit, a little general, but I felt like many years ago I was having a lot of issues with my neck, and it's not fully healed, but the lessons I got from it also about like the power of breathing, and you are what you eat, and eating for not having inflammation, and also like the wisdom of my body and how to be not, I'm not talking about nefesh habahamis, I'm talking about like um yeah, like completing movements, like energy circuitry, and really like different kinds of exercise rather than like the societal expectation of either exercise to lose weight or exercise to get strong. But I sort of felt like I was actually, because of the physical issues, it brought me to a sense of, obviously I wanted relief, but eventually I was able to have very deep understanding of my own body and my own experience. And the other thing that came to mind was, I feel like I had a lot of challenges with my father when I was young, but it also allowed me to have this, and I was talking about this with someone actually today, that I was started being able to, in that very deep place inside of me that yearns for something from him that I didn't get, I started seeing that in others, and I was able to relate very deeply with people, and well beyond, I think, the experiences I would have expected to have had. And I'm saying it's a very high cost. Obviously, I wanted more from my own father, but in the end, I do see that there's a lot, like when I reflect on it now as a young adult, that I got some special gifts out of both of those, the health challenges and the feeling like dissatisfied as a young child. And I'm not sure what my life would be like otherwise. I'm not pretending to know, but as you asked that, I see that there's a lot of light, in both of those. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. And it's a general thing that, when there's a blockage, one yearns to get out of it, and then the yearning wouldn't be there had it not been for the blockage. And the yearning produces a power for resolution of that yearning, which can only come from the tension. I mean, that's the whole notion of tension and resolution. There's no resolution unless there's first tension. So the light that comes from darkness has an intensity that is unequaled to the light that's just there given. The things we have to work for are the things that really become things of value. I think everybody can relate to that. And that's the second lesson of the light. when we just look at the black flame and the white flame, or the straight light and the reflected light, the light which comes from darkness. So those are the two perspectives that we've had so far. Now, we started a third perspective.
Wait, before we start the third perspective,
Yeah,
I just want to add and sort of validate what was just said, that what we're really coming up to is taking, and ideally it's olive oil, but in order to light that olive oil, shemen zayis, and shemen zayis zach, the olive has to be crushed.
good, excellent. That's a beautiful one.
Goal is, yes, we can grow up with, or experience all kinds of experiences that we can feel crushing. Some people are just crushed, and some people choose to use those experiences and elevate not just themselves, but share light with other people.
Beautiful, beautiful, right. Chassidus lemoyer, right? The olive had to be crushed. This is in the Beis Hamikdash. It's an expression used by the temple oil. It had to be crushed in order to illuminate. Chassidus lemoyer. Okay, so we get that, and we'll, God willing, contemplate that, and the benefits that we have from that when we listen to that story that the lights tell us. Okay, so I pointed to a place, and not all of you are here. We're starting on page 66. On good, how many lines down did I say? I don't remember. Maybe 15 lines
17.
down. Seventh, thank you, Moshe. 17 lines
17.
down. Over on the line begins with the Neshama, and over on the left. Okay, first we'll recapitulate a little bit. Okay, and please feel free to, interrupt me. I'm looking at the page now. I'm not necessarily looking as up as I have been before, so you can just unmute yourself.
Right hand side of the page.
Right. V'hine mehashemen. This line now begins. The next line with mehashemen. From the shemen, from the oil, nimshach hanahera chivra. From the oil, you get the white light. Jehu ke'inyan b'chinas ispaklaria ha'me'ira. That's the shining light, the luminous light. That's the light we want to light up the room, right? The white light. Hainu b'chinas or yosher. So he calls it the straight light, the unreflected light. It's not the light that's bouncing off a reflected surface, such as a piece of glass with a thin silver painting, film of silver paint behind it. And these are the number of pillars of light which we talked about above. And where is the dark light? Where does the dark light? The dark light is drawn from the beginning part of the wick. And that's called the reflective light. And that's the love, that light is the love which is called Ava Michol Miyodecha, when you're really put to the test and you have to give you everything you've got in order to survive. B'chol Miyodecha, right? You have to Hashem L'chayim B'chol L'vovecha, all your heart, and ultimately B'chol Miyodecha, which they teach literally, the simple teaches with your money. And the reason money is because you have to put so much of yourself into it in order to earn money. The earning bread is a metaphor for really having to deal with the, as Shana pointed out, the most lower elements of things, the body, and everything that you have to do, you have to put your shoulder to the wheel. So b'chol miyadecha, giving over yourself. Shenimshach mitzad is chapkus nefesh habahamis, and that whole putting yourself pressing your shoulder to the wheel, turning yourself inside out, so to speak, is coming from the union of the nefesh elokis, specifically with the nefesh habahamis. In the metaphor, the nefesh elokis is white light. The nefesh habahamis is dark because think about it, the nefesh habahamis comes through a big tzimtzum, a big contraction of light, right? And it's not going to reveal its ultimate greater intensity until the nefesh elokis starts interacting with it and starts really teaching it from whence it came, that the darkness has a higher origin than the light has an origin. Ki habesilahu nefesh elokis, hislaptis b'nefesh habahamis, because the oil, the wick is the union. Moshe, to your point, here's another way of looking at it. The wick is the union of the godly soul as it's enclosed in the animal soul. That's the wick. Ki zeh shehaneshama nikra pasula, that which the soul, and he called the soul the wick in another place, right? The soul is the wick. It's speaking specifically when that soul is behislapshis beguf, when it's enclosed in a body. And then the soul has a leg to stand on. It has a wick. It has something that it can manifest its power in without the godly soul without a body. It's interesting. We speak about mitzvahs. Doing mitzvahs, you're yotzi mitzvahs if you just do them, even without kavanah, right? It says mitzvahs without kavanah, however, is like a body without a soul. And then you can reverse this. There's a notion of a soul without a body. This is paths of ecstasy and paths of enlightenment, which have no resultant change in the world, but are there primarily to indulge our interest and our desire for spirituality. So that's a soul without a body. So the mitzvah is the thing that you do the thing with. That's the ner mitzvah. That's where the action takes place, right? In the ner, in the vessel. But it can only take place if there is a light to illuminate it. Otherwise, we're looking at a menorah with no wick and no fire. So to have the fire, you need the soul to join in the body. And as he says, so this pasula, the wick, is not the ner, the wick in this instance is the joining of the neshama with the nefesh, with the body. I'm going to skip now down. I don't think I gave you these markings on the page. We're going to skip down almost 15 lines or more. The line begins nikra ner. The nun kuf apostrophe ner. For those of you following along, tell me if you have it and you don't have it. Yes? No?
Got it.
Okay, I'm assuming everybody who's looking inside has it. And if you're not, fine, just listen.
Wait,
Ahainu. Yeah.
Could you repeat what line we're on, please?
Yeah, same column, 66, but we skipped down. I said about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lines. The right-hand sign is nun kuf apostrophe, and then the word ner.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. V'hainu, ki haneshama hu b'chinas hapasila u'behislapshis b'nefesh habahamis. Then the soul is the wick, and in joining itself and then clothing it with nefesh habahamis and mitzvahs, ein b'chinas hashemen. See, this now turns it in a different way. Halt cup here, right? Just another way of looking at things. Well, again, the neshama is the wick. It's the thing that's burning, that wick. And when that soul is enclosed in an animal soul, the hamitzvahs, which is engaging in physical things, so the nefesh elokis is now engaged in the mitzvahs, hein b'chinas hashemen. So they become oil, because the oil is what's going to flame, and the oil is going to be the fuel. Put it this way. When your nefesh elokis joins with your body, now you've got fuel. You've got energy. And this energy is now able to be directed in the way it's embodied now in a mitzvah. It has direction. It's fuel, and it's fuel that's empowering the machine to a particular direction. Direction of Kedusha, the direction of bringing godliness into the world. And through that union of the oil, and the wick, what happens? You get something that emits two kinds of light, right? The black light and the white light. This is cute. The word v'ahavta is Hashem Elokecha, right? The word v'ahavta, the gematria of that, if you added up those numbers, is 2 times light. 2 times light is what? 207 and 414. 2 kinds of light. So once again, that when you take the shemen and you have the wick together, and it's not ninshak, it's drawn onto the wick, that's how you get light, right? And that's the ahavta, and you shall love, which you shall love is two times light. The black light and the white light. Which is the giving over of yourself entirely, the simcha shel mitzvah, and the joy of the mitzvah. This is like when you light the candle, right? As we will, you put that match to the wick. Now that your wick has been penetrated in oil and it's in a vessel, and you light it. Nimshach ba'olah ha'er. The light goes up. Shesaviv ha'pesila, and it encompasses all the entirety of the wick. Jehu nahira ukma, and all that entirety starts with the black light. The black light down near the bottom. That's where you put the wick. That way you put the match. And afterwards, nimshach misgala ha'nahira ha'kivra. And afterwards, after you break open let's go back to our metaphor. After you break open the klippa, after you deal with the negative experience that's making you yearn for cure or for health, after you do that, and only as a result of doing that, does your godly flame and your power really shine up. I mean, this is the facts of life. That is another expression from the Chazal. A person would rather have 1 acre of his own than 9 acres of somebody else's. Because when you put in that 1 acre, if you get gifts, you haven't done anything, right? It's nice to have, but it's only when you put the shoulder to the wheel, when you engage in the cracks of life, the deep openings and opportunities which at first present themselves as woe, and they have the first stage of. Let me put it another way. I think we can all relate. The first stage of doing any new project, whether it's a marriage or whether it's a construction project, it presents difficulties. You're not familiar with it. You're not familiar with marriage. You're not familiar with the tools you need and the exactitude of the design of what you're trying to do. And there's a struggle. And from the struggle specifically comes the light. In the darkness comes the light. So when you touch that match to the wick, the first thing that appears is the dark. And from the dark comes the light. The axe itself is what can ultimately, it comes from the forest. The power comes from the forest to actually clear the forest and make the light. And afterwards, as I said, the light is revealed. So the first thing has to be you putting your effort into it. If you don't touch the match to the wick, you're not going to get anything, right? You're not going to get a blue flame or a white flame. You have to bring yourself and your full self, meaning your selfless self, the self where you give away what's in it for me and are thinking, what's in it for the universe? What's in it for, what does God want from this? How will this be a healing? And how will this add shalom? And how will this add righteousness to the world? And those are your thoughts, not so much what kind of spiritual experience am I going to get from this? It was an interesting, I heard a word that and made a very, I'm smiling because it has a big effect on me. I heard it a few days ago. One of the Rabbeim, I'll give his name because it's good to say Torah in the name of the one who said it, Rabbi Mintz from the Jewish Learning Institute, was giving a speech. And he was in the middle of his speech, came to him this following little item, this gem that he heard. He said he read it in some Polish Chassidus, not Lubavitch, Chabad. And the word is as follows. I'll say it in Yiddish, I think. Soll sein a gar nicht, meaning you should be a nothing. Aber nicht sein klein, but you should not be small. You should be nothing, but you should not be small. Now, how do people take that? I'm smiling because I'm taking it in a certain way that makes me smile. I would like to hear how anybody else takes it. Be a nothing, but don't be small. Nobody? Okay. I'll give you 2 more seconds. 1, 2. Okay. Be a nothing. Give yourself away. Once was give yourself away. I was once I do the work that I do in the last 20 years. It has to do with construction in old buildings, and occasionally I go out and I look for buildings and I see what's going on. And I was driving by a building, and big apartment building, and I'm driving by, rows and rows of windows, and some 2 people had hung out a sheet, and on it was a saying written by attributed to Mahatma Gandhi of India, and the saying goes as follows: if you want to find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others. Give yourself away. Be nothing. But don't be small, because in being nothing, in giving yourself away, you will find the ability to be great, to really give everything that you have, because you're not in it anymore for yourself, you're in it for the mission. So if you really want to find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others. If you really want to find yourself, give yourself away, become small, become a nothing, in order that you should be, but in order that you should, what is it called? Become nothing, but don't become small. Because your individuality, your fullness of individuality depends entirely on your giving yourself away. I'm going to get rid of this call. I don't like this. Phone calls interrupt the Zoom. Okay. Okay, you get that? Anyone doesn't get that? Is that okay? Settled? The notion of become nothing but not small. This is how everything of you becomes possible, by giving yourself away.
I think you can put it on do not disturb your phone, do not disturb, and it'll
Oh yeah?
it won't let the phone calls come through.
Can I do that now in the middle of a class?
Is it
I don't want
Apple?
to lose. Huh?
Is it iPhone?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you swipe your finger down, it should have focus mode or
Okay.
work mode.
I'm not going to do it. I'll learn how to do it, because I'm afraid that I might
All right.
mess up the whole thing. Okay. All right. That's the void. And think about this itself. I mean, the light of a lantern, a wick, lights up as the wick gets smaller, right? The wick burns, after all. The wick becomes nothing, right? But it's the source, and only in its dissolving is the light available, simply ourselves. It's only on us, as we dissolve our ego and give ourselves over to Hashem and what he wants from us in the service of others, right? In the service of Hashem, that we find our real strength. We're just going to finish this paragraph. And when we do that, when we give ourselves over to him, guess what? Amshich ruach, that draws that same given overness of Hashem for us. We give ourselves over to him, he gives himself over to us. Pretty much imitated in a good friendship relationship or a good marriage relationship, to the extent that each of the pair in the friendship or the marriage are primarily interested in the benefit of each other. So that becomes a resounding back and forth. I'm interested in giving what you want, you're interested in giving what I want. So you're interested in what I need, I'm interested in what you need. And so my arousal of interest in your need has a provocative effect. It can provoke that you then become interested. And I see that you're interested in me, I'm interested in you. There was a song, I don't remember exactly how it goes, from the Joni Mitchell song from the old days. All I really want to do is bring out the best in me and you. And this is what he's saying here on the page with Hashem. All I really want to do, God, is what best for you. And you've told me what's best for you. And the result is that as he sees us doing what's best for him, he will do what's best for us, which of course is to bring the ultimate Geula Shlema. We're going to jump across to the next page, page Lamed Dalet, in which we're going to get a whole new view of this will be our final view, because it's our final session on Hanukkah, a different view of this whole topic of the lights of Hanukkah. Okay, page Lamed Dalet, if you're looking at it, right-hand column. This one is simple. The paragraph begins just below the middle of the page, which says Zehu Inyan. Everybody got it? Who wants it? And while we're switching paragraphs, anybody got out there something either bothering you that needs clarification, or something you want to comment on?
I guess I would say, like, in order to really fully give yourself over to others and stuff like that, you have to know yourself. And in order to know yourself, you have to deal with everything you've been through in your life, all the trauma, all the darkness. You have to face that. And only then will that when you deal with all that and you effectively rid yourself of those sins or those types of shadows that are overcoming you, then you can really pour out yourself into your wife, into your kids, and stuff like that, and to Hashem.
I agree with you.
In the Var Malkos, the Rebbe's talking about matters of the heart. He's talking about listening to your heart. He's talking about taking care of yourself and stuff like that. I mean, those are like the last sikhas of the Rebbe. He was talking about yourself. He wasn't really saying like before, like it was like this, like the Rebbe saying here, the Alter Rebbe saying here. But the Rebbe in the Var Malchus, he's talking about taking care of yourself and healing yourself and doing teshuva ourselves inside.
Right.
So
I'm not sure. First of all, if you waited till I don't think you're saying this, but it sounds like you have to perfect yourself before you can be a benefit to anybody.
No, that's not what I'm saying. But in order to really give over yourself, your best self, you have to deal with the things that are wrong with you, or that are negative.
In order to come to your best self, you have to deal with the darkness within you. Is that what you're saying? That's absolutely right. Right. Yeah. But the but is here that this is a growth process, right? Growth comes in stages, right? And we all have something, no matter how broken we are. First of all, to be broken and allow people into our lives to help us. Some people have a very big difficulty with that, just realizing that I need help. And I'm trying to, heal myself, but I don't have the tools and I don't have the sensitivity. Whatever it is I need, I'm lacking. So being in a state of brokenness and allowing someone into your life, and then being in a state where I want to be in the life of someone who's broken, because I feel that two things. I have something to give, even though I'm not perfect at all, but I feel I have something to give, and that allows me to lose myself in that relationship with the other. And I feel also that there's something that's wanted from me. There's someone out there who needs me. So I'm just saying that though what you're saying is true, the most perfect gift is the most perfect gift, where you've perfected yourself and now you can deal in that from that perfected state with someone else. But if we waited for that, we wouldn't be having much of any relationships along the way. We wouldn't be able to help each other. And most of us, I'll speak for myself, are living in a somewhat broken state. And for what I would call in my life, good reason, right? These things happen to me, and I haven't healed yet. And I'm not going to wait until I heal entirely to feel that I can be of service.
And I read an article right before Matan Torah. There was this article talking about how Hashem could have given the Torah to a nation of Sadics and stuff like
Right.
that, but instead he gave it to a nation full of trauma. They just came out of slavery. It's because they were broken vessels, and a broken kli can hold an infinite amount of things rather than a full kli. It can only hold
Right.
so much, and it overflows. That's it.
And that's our lesson. The dark light has a power that's not even in the white light. All right. I mean, this is a good conversation.
I want to jump in with sort of turning it in a slightly different perspective, that it's
Sure.
not, which goes along with, yes, that the brightest light comes out of the darkness, but that it's not just the state of brokenness, but when someone is aware of what their brokenness is and what their goals are for themselves, and they can communicate that, whether it's as a parent to a child, or what's more important than any child seeing their parent as whole and perfect, what's more important is to say, wow, my parent communicates where they want to go and they move in that direction. Because otherwise we're not giving the tools of what to do with brokenness and normal state. We're all here in a state of tikkun.
Right.
So it's not that we are giving over our best selves when we're our best. It's we can actually give over our best self with how to handle the brokenness, how to go forward, how to grow. And that's resilience. And that's what we want to give and model.
Yeah, you're right. And we want to teach that by doing it ourselves. Yes. Beautiful. There's a lot here, huh? These are all from the wick in the flame. A lot to think about. We'll start our portion. We only have about 10 minutes left. By the way, we have an agreement here that amongst people and myself that with this lasts an hour. We could be here all night and we could have a good time, but we have other things. Each one of us has some things to do. Okay, so we're starting. This is the coming back. We're going to bring back. This is the inyan of the lights of Hanukkah. Shetomu kol hashmonim, right? What happened? All the oil became toma, right? And that shamanim, the lights, the oils, shebehechel in the Beis Hamikdash. Mitzad tagvuris chochma de klippa. And what made the lights tameh? So he expresses it metaphorically because, and by metaphorically meaning the inner dimension of what was going on the outside, which was the Hellenistic determination to stamp out the light of the Torah. Now, it's important to give a little short, I'm trying to be short, realization of what this Hellenism was about. This Hellenism wasn't about extinguishing Jews. This Hellenism wasn't even about extinguishing the ethical, the legalistic practices of the Torah, the dinim, monetary dinim. They were fine with that. The law of the Torah is a wise law of the Torah. What they were bothered by is this notion of connection with something that you can't understand and beyond, and service of that in a way of total self-nullification, which the Torah said, which the Hellenist point of view was, that's not, if you can't count it, if you can't think it, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. So it's very similar to the, which one I'm going to call them, but the ideologies of any time, which, if your ideology is that the earth is flat, you're going to hear it's going to be ridiculous to you to think of it's round. If your ideology, we're living in a stage where we have an ideology in the world that believes that its particular approach to life and all of its ways of life are what the whole world should be doing, and it's diametrically opposed to Torah, but it goes one step further because it's not just eradicating. It doesn't want to just eradicate the Torah; it wants to eradicate the people who of the Torah, the Jews. But Hellenism was just in short, to unelevate the ideology and bring everybody over to the ideology of Hellenism. And the laws of the Torah, they do with equal weights, and fair trade and etc. were fine. So, but nevertheless, so that's why they're called Chochmah de Klippa. They're a wisdom, right? We'll call it rationalism. I mean, this is something that existed as an ideology in a particular time. Rationalism, hedonism, all these isms, right? They were bodies, and they were well thought out, and they had books written about. They were chokhmas, wisdoms, but they were the wisdoms of Klippa, the wisdoms of the shell, the wisdoms of the other side. So, therefore, being a Jew is okay as long as you were not involved in what we're involved in. The simple thing that the whole purpose of life is to make a dwelling place for God in the lower worlds. No. The whole purpose of life is, let's take the ideology of America in the 1950s. The whole ideology was to make a good living and to be able to have two cars, etc., etc. I'm just making this overly simple, but it's I think you're getting the point. The difference between the ideologies being the end game versus the one who's way over and behind and above all ideologies, which is Hashem himself. And they wanted that to be forgotten. And in order to obviate that, to get rid of that, since it's a chokhmah, it's a wisdom of the klippa, so there has to be a drawing down above from a wisdom of kedusha, the opposite side of kedusha, which is a wisdom that comes from makifim elyonim, from completely transcendent and ultimately not rational levels whatsoever. There's another, rationalism was a whole movement, right? A name of a whole period in history. And Torah is not rational at root. Torah is supra-rational, above rational. It's called the makifin. It's transcendental. It's transcendent. It's not at root. It's not understood, right? When Moshe Rabbeinu saw the into the future of Rabbi Akiva having his skin flayed by the Romans, and he said to God, "This is Torah, and this is its reward." And God said to him, "Shtoik, be quiet." Kach olabun atzoinen. So it rose up in my mind. God's mind is out of our ability to grasp, and yet we constantly are striving to get closer and closer to it. And that gives us our yearning for infinity, an infinite yearning, which can never be resolved, as a result of which we keep going because it gets richer and richer and richer. And the key to it getting richer and richer is that there's no end point. So that's makifin. Vezehu pach shel shemen. And this is the jar of oil. This was the jar of oil that had the signature, literally, of the high priest. The high priest, the priest stands for the midah of chesed. He's the one who draws down God's kindness through the acts, and the Kohen Gadol stands for Rav Chesed, which is a level of chesed that is the source for the chesed that's coming down here below. And because it's a transcendent light, it comes down and can be enclosed, even now in our generations, when the Holy Temple is not extant, the Beis HaMikdash. And so what happens then, there's a difference between the lights, the lantern that we have now, a Hanukkah lantern, and the light that was in the Beis HaMikdash, the lantern in the Beis HaMikdash, in this respect, that the light was in the Beis HaMikdash was of Zion Neros, 7 lights. And we know that ours is 8. 8 is always the symbol shemen. Shemen, back to our oil, another thing you can learn from the oil, shemen floats on top of everything. And at the same time, if you take a piece of bread and put it in oil, the oil seeps into everything. So shemen is a metaphor for something which can carry opposites. And carrying opposites is beyond rationality. It's not either or, but both. Both everywhere equally absorbed, and at the same time, everywhere equally transcendent, encompassing and absorbed at the same time. Those are two opposites, right? Either it's around the thing or it's within the thing. Oil can be both. It floats on top of any other liquid. That's its transcendent quality, and it permeates and penetrates everything as well. So that's the metaphor of oil. Now, the difference between 7 and 8, there are 7 midos. And Malchus, 7 midos. That's called the Or Panimi. When the wisdom, the chokhmah, the mindfulness that you have in yourself penetrates down into your midos, to your chesed, gevurah, teferes, etc., it's called Or Mamali. It fills up those midos. There's another kind of light, which is called the Or Makif, the transcendent light. And the transcendent light is associated with the number 8. Even in mathematical nomenclature, the sign of infinity is an 8 on its side, basically. So 8 is the notion of shemen, shemona, right? Shemona is the number 8, and that's the word shemen, which is oil. So Hanukkah is, okay, I'm going to say this because we only have a couple minutes, so we're not getting far at all, but I'll sort of sum it up with this. What he said just here is that the lights of Hanukkah, they have a certain lacking, right? They're not the lights of the Beis HaMikdash. The lights of the Beis HaMikdash, they were lights which drew down and expressed Hashem's investment in the entire world. The Or Makif has a different kind of power. It can go anywhere. It's not proportional. This doesn't, like an Or Chesed is Chesed. The Or Gevurah is Gevurah. It's distinct. It's defined. The light which is Makif, it can be anything and everything all at once, and therefore it can protrude and inform the darkest of the dark and retain and not get sundered there, sundry. It won't get, that's not the right word. It won't get broken. It won't get darkened internally. It won't change, even though it's invested in the lowest of the low of the low, which is mitzvahs. We take a piece of bread and we bring say a brucha on it, and it's kosher. We've invested a hunk of dough. And I just looked at Mo. You posted this earlier. Your challah baking. You take a hunk of dough and you've invested it with kedusha, and that piece of dough is a very, very physical thing. Nothing spiritual about it, except that because it's physical, it can contain the highest light. This is a manifestation of a principle from Sefer Yetzirah, from Avram Avinu, that the beginning is wedged specifically in the end. In other words, the deepest level of God, the transcendent level of God, is invested down here in the physical. The spirituals are different levels, different worlds, Atzilus, Bria, Yetzirah, etc. But to get down, to really get down, requires something very deep. And that's the 8 lights of Hanukkah. And I think we're going to have to conclude with that, since our time is up, that the lights of Hanukkah, first of all, the lights of Hanukkah have to, let's explain halacha. The lights of Hanukkah are meant to be positioned in the home in a way that they light up the outside, to light up the darkness, right? And to be a light unto the darkness. They're meant to be seen from the street. So they're not very unlike the Shabbos lights. Shabbos is 7, right? The 7th day of the week. The lights of Shabbos are meant to illuminate the house. The lights of Hanukkah have the transcendent power within them, which surpasses the 7, and therefore has the capacity to light up the world, to bring the most deep illumination of godliness into the farthest reaches of darkness, and in doing that, release a power, the power that comes only, that the power of light which comes from darkness. So that's my wrap up. We could do this. We could do a Maimon on Hanukkah all year long. So we always conclude. We call this, and I'm going to take a couple more minutes, even we're over time. With the name of our class is Chassidus Ubechein. Chassidus, so what? this is our opportunity for anyone who wants to, or any bodies, say, okay, so what does this mean? What does this have to do with how I'm going to celebrate Hanukkah? And what is it going to have to do with me as a light unto the nations? What can I learn from this? Well, while you guys are thinking, we'll just bring to the table one thing we already said. That we're going to have a different this enables us to have a different attitude, enables us. It gives us the opportunity to have a different attitude toward the dark things in life and toward the history that we each have in our own subconscious and in our own deep down body experience, the trauma that each of us have in each of our own ways. And as I think Shana brought out at the beginning, utilizing that as a way of becoming stronger. And that's what's embedded in one thing that's embedded in the lights of Hanukkah. Anybody else? All right, I'm going to leave you, but I want to leave you with this. Where are we going to go next week? If anybody has a sikha or a mimer that you would like to learn with us in public, or you would like to learn, and you'd like it if we learned it in public, let me know as early as you can in the week, and we'll do that. So, I mean, I know some of you have sikhas that you're learning, particularly. Some of you may have favorite memorim. If you have, let me know, and I'll let you guys pick. And if nobody picks, I'll pick, of course. But I would like to do something that's of interest, at least at first glance, to someone who's picking it from the group.
Are we learning next week?
What's wrong with next week? So, I mean, Hanukkah, it's still in Hanukkah. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything wrong with it. If anything, we should increase
No,
our
wait a
learning.
minute. Well, hold on. It's in
I want to
Hanukkah.
make sure in terms of my own planning, are we learning together next week?
I mean, I hadn't thought about that. I have no idea. Why don't I have no idea if I'm going to, if there's anything that would disturb me from learning next Thursday night, next Monday night in the middle of Hanukkah. But I'll let you know.
Thank you.
All right. And hey, guys, you could do the same thing. Let me know. If it turns out that nobody's going to show because you're all busy with other stuff, it's Hanukkah, let me know. So let's just stay in touch with each other. And at the same time, if you do want to learn, and you have something in mind that you would like to learn, let me know that as well.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Okay? Till we meet again, happy Hanukkah.
Lichtige Hanukkah.
A lichtige Hanukkah. Okay, guys. Bye-bye.